Hey, Facebook friends, Marianne here. I just wanted to do a shout out because I know there's so much craziness going on in the world right now, and we're all getting it boom, 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 boom from multiple directions. And sometimes the easiest way to process things is if we have a story, something simple that brings it all down into a real easy narrative. And so I wanted to share something with you that happened earlier today because it kind of puts things in perspective. I'm in my workout clothes, hence what you're seeing. And I got to work out with Adam, my workout coach. He was fantastic. So he knew he had come and gone. I had my Juice Babe. I can't say enough about them. They're fabulous. So we had them come and knock. We had our Amazon package delivery. We knew who was coming. And then I'm sitting here at my computer doing work, and suddenly he hears bam, 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 bam. And Joshua looks over at me and he says, "Are you expecting one?" "No." He said, "Okay, get your passport." I grab my passport. He's like, "Stay out of the way of the window." He goes over there because ICE is now making unannounced stops. And we need to make sure that if my blonde, white, blue-eyed husband could not dissuade them, that I had my passport ready. That's the reality that people are living in right now in the United States. And if you are not white and you're smart, you always have your papers on you. Kristi Noem just announced that every citizen should have their papers. And I hate those moments where I have "I told you so's," but here's a pretty big freaking one. Remember when I was back there at Standing Rock with a lot of other people and we were all trying to push, for the indigenous people's rights, and Blackwater was hired to go and terrorize people. They were doing a heck of a job of it. And I warned people, if you don't pay attention, one day Blackwater will be turned against other citizens and not just on the reservation. So if you don't care about this reservation, which you should, out of the compassion of your heart, care about them because they're human beings, we should at least consider, what does this do in terms of weaken your personal human rights, your personal civil rights? Well, hey, guess what? Guess who's been hired by ICE to go out and be in charge of rounding people up? Guess who is now hired to essentially just go track people down? Blackwater. Yeah, Blackwater now has a contract with ICE to go after people. They're bounty hunters. They are legal bounty hunters with all that tactical training. So, the reason I'm pointing this stuff out is not because I want to say "I told you so," but because I am so tired of people not seeing that what affects one demographic directly affects another demographic. If you think you are immune from what is happening because you are a naturalized legal citizen, well, guess what? Stephen Miller has said they want to round up 200 naturalized citizens. That's 200 people who are here legally. I'm a naturalized citizen. I'm exactly a demographic, because he said he especially would like to have them rounded up if they were born in Latin American countries. Hello, born in Mexico, naturalized. So somehow they think that that makes people like me less likely to love this country. Well, what I want to tell you is that you're absolutely wrong. The fact that I was born in Mexico, adopted at 5 days old, and brought here makes me grateful every single day for the incredible opportunities that this country affords me. It makes me grateful every single day for the opportunities it gave me to deal with my hearing loss, to get an education, to survive my asthma, all sorts of things that would not have happened if I had been down on the streets in Mexico. That is what makes me a better citizen, because I have an innate appreciation. Yeah, I was born on the other side of the Rio Grande, but guess what? It makes me care and appreciate the freedoms of being an American citizen. And the fact that I have to go around and carry a passport anywhere I go, and I can be fined a minimum of $160 if I'm caught without my papers and ICE decides to let me go. I still have to be fined. This is not okay. And I'm sick of seeing friends, and I'm putting you in quotes, friends saying, "This is okay, this is fine." It's fine that you have to live in fear and always carry your passport. It's fine that your melanin makes you a target and qualifies as probable cause. When skin color qualifies as probable cause, you have lost a valuable, innate civil and human right. Let me say that again. When skin color counts as probable cause, you have lost a civil right, a human right. And for every one of you that keeps posting, "This is the right way to go," This is the right way to do things. Makes perfect sense for us. You're being, this is hyperbole. You're being exaggerative. No, I have been stopped 3 times. One on a bus. You can see the video in my Facebook feed when a guy got on the bus with a machine gun and walked down and asked everybody, not a black person, not an Asian person, not a white person, only people with my melanin, for our papers. I've shared this story before when I was walking to my mother's house and someone reported me. And they said, we have a report of a little brown woman. And as I joke, what was I supposed to say? Oh, she went that way. Instead, I produced my papers. And that officer drove next to me 4 blocks until I got to my mother's house, parked in the front of that driveway until she came out and waved. I mean, and thank God she could come out and wave, because this was before she was fully disabled and bound to her bed. I mean, this is the reality. I have been stopped at the airport where ICE officers came out and tried to say, hey, you know where to get your luggage? I can tell you where to go. I'll help you. Follow me into this little room. And I knew that little room is where you go if you're going to get taken. And I said, no, I can read up there. It says that, my luggage carousel hasn't been announced yet. You can read? Joking aside, these are scary moments. Every time this happens, my heart is racing. Every time this happens, I'm wondering if I'm going to be taken. Every time this happens, I know that if I am taken, I will not have my medicine that I have to take, or else I'm pretty much guaranteed to have seizures in 5 days. Every time I see this, I know that I could be disappeared. There are people that are full citizens that have been taken and turned up in countries outside of our country in the ER, beaten up to a pulp. Citizens. So to all of you that seem like this is just fine and dandy to have Gestapo-like tactics, and yeah, it is Gestapo-like. And people that say, oh, you're being exaggerative. You know what? My husband is a relative of Anne Frank, okay? So I'm not dissing, I'm not disrespecting any of that. And he'll be the first to tell you that no, this is exactly what it was. When people start being snatched off the streets, when people were having their homes knocked on and being said, papers, please. And take it if they don't have them. Disappeared with no accountability, and not even the local police force. Right now, there are people that are being every day I see, so-and-so's disappeared. My grandfather disappeared. My child disappeared. My brother disappeared. And they're all people with melanin. Black, brown, Asian, Native American. And those numbers have gone up and up and up. And the local police can't do anything about it because ICE doesn't inform them when they take someone. So the local police doesn't know if it's ICE or a serial killer, if it's ICE or kidnapping, if it's ICE or trafficking. I mean, they don't know. So how can our police even be effective when they're not informed that ICE is the one that took somebody and not some predator? This is insanity. This is absolute insanity. And for me to be at home and to have this banging on the door and, my heart to go racing, up into my throat, my husband getting up and saying, make sure you have your passport, and me grabbing my passport so we could answer the freaking door. This is not okay. And I'm just going to say it. Every one of you that keeps trying to defend Trump, that keeps trying to defend MAGA, shame on you. Because you are electing for this to be the reality for every one of us who has melanin. Right now, there are people that have been taken that are Native American and put in a camp because they're Native American. Where are they supposed to go back to? I have a friend of mine, Louis Hina from the Suki tribe. He likes to joke, if you told me to go back where I came from, what am I going to do? Pitch a teepee in your front yard? I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm horrified at the shooting that happened. But you know what? Before this horrible shooting that happened up in Minnesota, there were other shootings that happened. There are other deaths that happened against black people, against brown people, against Asian people, against Native American people. It didn't make the news because they weren't white. Thank God people are caring now. And maybe you notice because, the current, MAGA is now asking for various institutions to give them a report on how many Jews they have in their institutions. Yeah, you heard me right. Why do they want to know? I don't know how many times I have to tell people, I grew up with all these incredible stories that my father told me about fighting the Ku Klux Klan. And there are different sides in that history. The Catholics, the black people, the brown people, the Asian people, the Native American people are pretty much all on one side. and then you have the Klan on the other. So if you happen to be any of those demographics and you think that ICE isn't eventually going to come after you, you're really living in ignorance. So maybe they're going after people that look like me and you don't care. Maybe you like people that look like me because usually you see people with my race doing your yard, cleaning the house. And I'm not being politically correct here. As I joke, does my bank account make my melanin more acceptable to you, more palatable to you? I've been exhausted emotionally by the amount of rhetoric people feel free to do around me. Because they said, they forget, since I've been blessed to be a trustee baby, somehow in their mind I seem white to them. And they just let it fall, what they think. And they forget that I'm brown. If I bring it up, they're like, oh, well, you're different. No, I'm not different. The only thing that made me different is my family had the means to give me opportunity to overcome the handicaps I was born with. Obviously, ICE doesn't care about handicaps. I saw a video of a woman who was handicapped, can't even walk without the proper equipment, and because she wouldn't get out of the car, they yank her out and carry her away screaming. We as a society cannot survive if we don't have empathy and compassion for each other. It's required for a democracy. And if we only care when things are happening to people who look like ourselves, who pray like ourselves, who believe like ourselves, then we are going to lose this democracy. But the fact that there are people out there that are perfectly fine and feel righteous even, that ICE has announced they're going to do door-to-door knocking, and you better have your papers in order or they will take you. The fact that ICE is not required to tell anyone where they take anyone. The fact that ICE denies senators access. The fact that ICE thinks nothing of killing someone to the point they've repeatedly told others, you saw what happened, and are using it as a threat. And the fact that every time we see these things, there are enough of you that click on the laugh emoji because you think other people's pain and terror is fine. It's a terrifying statement for our nation. We are going to be losing something invaluable that we cannot afford to lose in the United States. And that is appreciation and respect for each other's common humanity. Without that, democracy cannot survive. So yeah, I'm ticked off. I'm ticked off that there are a lot of you out there that don't seem to give a crap. That this is now a new state of terror. Terror. For those of us that look like me or have darker skin. For those of us with accents. And it's also a lie, because if you look like me, guess what? You're mostly Native American. Which makes us really inconvenient to what MAGA and Trump and this Gestapo is trying to push out there. Well, I know that every day I leave this house, I risk running into ICE. I risk being taken. I risk my family and loved ones not knowing what happened to me. And every day I step outside my house should not be a risk. But those of you that support Trump and MAGA and ICE are what constitutes that risk. And I want to know why you feel okay. Why that makes you feel fine and justified. To have a Gestapo with Ku Klux Klan values running around. Many of whom have records of doing past harm to others. Why do you feel okay with that? Some of you who pushed to get a picture with me at some social event. I've seen you click on the laugh emoji. Some of you asked me to write a check for your endeavor, your invest in your company. I see you when you post a celebration of this racist, vile rhetoric. So yeah, does my bank account make my melanin more palatable to you? And if it does, then ask yourself why. because there's no difference between me and any one of those people who are working their asses off, except they've had a harder life and probably have one heck of a lot better work ethic than I do, because they've had to work for every single thing that they have. And I've yet to meet any one of them that isn't doing an incredible job to contribute to our society. It is a fact that immigrants, legal or illegal, commit less violent acts of crime than our own citizens. That's a fact. So why? Why support this and allow the demonization of whole races of people? Why? Are you scared that, if white people become a minority, that you'll be treated the way you've treated minorities? Well, I can tell you right now, I wouldn't. I would stand up for you. A person does not have to look the same as me or believe the same as me for me to stand up for their human rights, for their civil rights. Because I understand that at the end of the day, if you are denied your civil rights and human rights, then I threaten my own. And we need to get back to that. But the fact that too many people are perfectly fine with what's happening, and the fact that way too many people are in denial, the fact is, they know that there's nothing to deny. They see the truth. But if they accept it as a reality, then they bear the burden of their conscience, and that's what they don't want. So every time I hear one of you say, oh, you're making this a bigger deal than it is, what I'm really hearing from you is I don't want the responsibility of my own conscience. Well, too bad, because one day all of us will be remembered. We'll be remembered for whether we stood for the most vulnerable, whether they're the homeless, whether they're a recent minority, whether they're a refugee. Did we stand with them? Did we care about them? Did we see their common humanity and say they have potential to give to our society? Did we tear away a grandparent from his grandchildren? Did we tear families apart? Did we make it a policy to not reunite families? Were we vile, hideous human beings who delighted in sadistic actions? Because if you side with Bannon and Stephen Miller and Trump and MAGA, that is exactly what you're choosing to be. And one day you will be remembered as someone that loved humanity and stood for it, or someone that delighted in the pain that others committed, or you commit. Because technically, to commit that sadistic action was made legal by ICE. It is not okay. None of this is okay. None of this is normal. None of this can be something we get used to. And if you are silent, you are complicit. There is no, let's be quiet, let's not give attention to, let's not give them the benefit of our attention. That is such bullshit. It's a cop-out. Any excuse to be quiet in this 1930s-ish era of time is a cop-out. I get it. If you are someone who's a minority and you have a blue-collar job and you're terrified you could be fired or you put your whole family at risk, fine. But you are someone who lives a relatively safe life, who has a platform, who's not easily fired from your position. And if you are quiet, shame on you. Because this is not the time to be quiet. This is a time to stand for your democracy. You remember that when we all had to pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands? One nation created equal, indivisible, under God. Do you remember any of that at all? Were we all made to do these silly drills just because? Or did we really take into our hearts what that meant? We could only lead as a nation together if we're indivisible. We can only be indivisible if we recognize that all men are created equal. We can only recognize that all men are created equal if we recognize our common humanity, regardless of skin color, sexual orientation, religion, culture, ethnicity. Because otherwise, This is the end of our democracy. So some of you still out there defending Trump. Some of you have, accused me of being, too far leaning, left. Well, I'm a bisexual, brown-skinned female who believes in climate change, so I imagine I'm going to be pretty left-leaning. But you know what? I care about the straight, white, Protestant, conservative person having the same rights, civil rights and human rights as I do. I care about them. I care about you. If you fit that demographic, I care about you. Because I recognize that in a healthy society, it takes both conservatives and progressives. I think of conservatives like the bricks and progressives like the mortar. You have to be able to lay the mortar down to have a foundation, to have a brick on top, and each progression goes up. Things that the most conservative people, a woman having a bank account was once considered absolutely radical. So forward is progressive, maintaining is conservative. A healthy nation needs both. But right now, we're not a healthy nation. And when people don't pay attention to how entire demographics of people are losing their human rights and their civil rights, we all lose our own. Our democracy is only preserved when we care that somebody who is completely different than ourselves, different values, different perspectives, if I can't care about their human rights and their civil rights, then I'm not doing my duty as an American citizen. And if you don't like what I look like, what I believe, who I identify as, and you still think that I should come and grab me, then that's putting yourself at risk. It's like Pastor Niemöller's poem. First they came for this group, and I said nothing because I wasn't that group. And then they did again, and did again, and did again. And I said nothing each time. And now they're coming up the steps for me, and there's no one to speak for me. Right now, me as a brown-skinned, bi female cares about you. Even if you are a white supremacist person that only cares about men and hates all women, I still care about you. I still want you to have the same human rights and civil rights as I do. But I need you to understand that we're in the same boat. And if you poke holes in the bottom of the boat where my civil rights and human rights are, that boat is the same one that's holding you up, and you will drown too. That is the thing that people aren't understanding. So are we really going to go down this road where someone knocks on the door and my husband has to jump up and say, "Marianne, get your passport"? Because that's exactly how his relative Thompson-Frenk died. And are we really going to be looking at family members and friends who say that I'm fine with it? I'm proud of the role Trump is doing. I saw the way. Are we going to say that? Are we going to be supportive of that? Because every time you champion Trump or ICE or Steve Bannon or Stephen Miller, what you're telling every single person who looks like me or has melanin or has a different religion than you is that they don't matter to you or to our democracy. And you couldn't be more wrong. Because every one of those demographics has done something every single day to support what you rely on. Whether it is the food you eat, whether it's the delivery that was made to your house, whether it is the way the construction was done for your home, whether it is repairing the plumbing, whether it is cooking the food, whatever it is, raising the food, whatever it is, we all rely on each other. And unless we can recognize that, we lose our democracy. But the fact that any of us today are living in fear, and the fact that some of you are self-righteously defending that state of reality tells the rest of us that you don't care about preserving this democracy. All of us have to make a stand right now, Because it is not okay to know that there are 60 ICE officers over at the Anatole. It is not okay to know that there are people gearing up and putting on tactical gear in the parking lot of a church to go terrorize a community. That is not okay. It is not okay for anyone who looks like me tonight to know that there are ICE officers in tactical gear going all around the city, and we're having to remind each other, don't forget your passport. It is not okay for someone to bang on the door and for my husband to have to say, get your passport in case I need it. This is not okay. It is not okay for me to have to take my passport to go take out the trash. And those of you that think this is fine as a new and permanent normal, obviously do not care about the freedoms of people that don't look like you. And what I would ask you is to sincerely search in your heart and ask why. Because at some point in your life, someone who looked like me did something nice for you. Sometime in your life, someone who looked like me grew the food you eat, fixed your car, did your hair, was the plumber that came and fixed a leak. We are a society that relies on each other. And the only way we can proceed with hope for a future, a cohesive future in which we thrive, is if we recognize our common humanity. And that's the thing that hurts the most. Those of you that have heard me do public speaking before talk about how, there is the hardware of our technology and we have to balance it with the software of our sociology. But we are certainly failing that test now. And yet, the incredible inventions that are going on in the world around us are blow your mind. I was advertised a hoverboard the other day. People can spray on skin. People could inject, stuff to repair bone. I mean, the things that we are doing now is unreal. What an incredible future we could build together. Or we can go down this path which leads to hell. And for every one of you that's cheering that ICE decided to park and the traffic, park all over the parking lot of the largest LGBT church in the United States, the Cathedral of Hope, and gear up. Those of you that think it's fabulous that a girl got fired from the Anatole because she warned people that look like me not to go nearby because ISIS is there. Those of you that click on the laugh emoji every time you see someone screaming, crying, being beaten, shot, or being torn away from family. Those of you that click on the laugh emoji when you see a husband that's crying outside a center because that's the last place they took his wife, but he doesn't even know she's still in there. Those of you that click on the laugh emoji because an 86-year-old man was discovered over in Guatemala, a country that he's never been in, even though ICE told the family that, they didn't have him, even though they took him, discovered 3 months later in a country he'd never been. I don't understand where your humanity is. I don't understand why this is okay, why you celebrate it. And yes, I'm not blind. I do see the majority of you who celebrate it happen to be white, happen to be Protestant. I know there's some minorities who seem to think that by associating with you, they get power. But of course, that's a mirage. But I want you to really look at what just happened with this shooting. I want you to really think about what it means for Blackwater to now be bounty hunters employed by ICE. I want you to really think about the amount of training that police officers have in order to be taught when not to use their weapon under pressure, and how none of that training has been given to people largely recruited from white supremacist groups, protesters from January 6th, and people who have records of abuse. How likely are they to exercise restraint? Is this the reality you want to live in? If it's the reality you delight in, well then, that is where our nation is tearing apart. But if there's some part of you, those of you that rushed up because you want to have a photo with me at an event, and then post yay for ICE on your pages, Do you not see the discrepancy? I don't get it. But this is the reality we're living in now. And this is the reality that all of us have to decide whether we're going to navigate it and come out holding compassion for each other and the empathy, enough empathy to understand each other. To say this is not where we're headed as a nation. Or we're just going to bring back 1930s Germany going into World War II. Because this isn't something that those like me are going to take being quiet. I'm not going to live the rest of my life like this. And I know a lot of other people aren't either. We stand for what is good. We stand for recognizing each other's humanity. We stand for believing that together we can create an incredible future together. And I want to do that with you. But we can't if this is the era we're going to live in. Thank you.